If you're tuning in this morning, what did Donald Trump say past midnight in this announcement that the world clearly was tuned into? The reciprocal tariff. He says these are discounted tariffs. Let's listen in to some of the excerpts, especially what he said about India.
India, very, very tough, very, very tough. The Prime Minister just left, and he's a great friend of mine, but I said, you're a friend of mine, but you're not treating us right. They charge us 52%. You have to understand, we charge them almost nothing. For years and years, the United States charges other countries only a 2.4 tariff on motorcycles. Meanwhile, Thailand and others are charging much higher prices, like 60%. India charges 70%. Vietnam charges 75%, and others are even higher than that. Likewise, until today, the United States has for decades charged a 2.5 tariff. Think of that, 2.5% on foreign-made automobiles. The European Union charges us more than 10% tariffs, and they have 20% VATs, much, much higher. India charges 70%, and perhaps worst of all are the non-monetary restrictions imposed by South Korea, Japan, and very many other nations. As a result of these colossal trade barriers, 81% of the cars in South Korea are made in South Korea. 94% of the cars in Japan are made in Japan. Toyota sells 1 million foreign-made automobiles into the United States, and General Motors sells almost none. Ford sells very little. None of our companies are allowed to go into other countries.
Daniel, I bring you in here. While we're talking about all these countries, let's not forget Mexico and Canada, because not only neighbor nations, these were the two countries, there was definitely likely to be a trade war, but there was no mention of either of these nations. Do you think this is something that perhaps in the future they'll want to negotiate more? And there are, of course, certain terms and conditions that for now gives them a certain exempt.
Yeah, I'll admit I am perplexed to see that
Yes.
Canada and Mexico were not on the list. Now, it's possible they are going to be subject to that 10% flat rate. We don't know yet. So we're going to have to wait and see about that. But if there are any two countries that appear to have gotten some preferential treatment, it would be those two. And if that is the case, if they are getting some preferential treatment, it's not hard to see why. Canada is the United States' largest trading partner. And so it's quite possible that Trump is looking for some ways to avoid large price increases in the United States, and exempting the United States' two neighbors would be one way to do that. But we're going to have to wait and see why they were left out, to what extent they were left out. It's still quite uncertain.
Do you look at the internal sentiment in America right now? Do you think many would be happy that he's taken what appears to be a national interest view, or the Democrats will come forth, they'll have their own version to this? They had been warning against such a reciprocal tariff threat. So how do you think eventually when Trump says, I'm working for American interests?
My guess is that this is going to prove to be quite unpopular. Obviously, we don't have polls yet that look at how Americans are reacting to this. That will come, but polling suggests that Americans are generally supportive of free trade. And this is obviously in many ways the opposite of free trade. So if those polls are true, you would expect this to be unpopular. Different interest groups have come out against it: manufacturing associations, economists, the entire Democratic Party, even some members of the Republican Party appear to be skeptical about this.
And wouldn't it benefit a higher tax eventually reviving the economy for America?
In the long term, it's hard to say, but most economists seem to think the answer is no. And in the short term, it seems like it will mostly cause pain because prices will rise. Companies will pass the prices, the increased costs of manufacturing, because it's harder for them to import goods, onto consumers. And so, you'll have more inflation.
Interesting. Ambassador Sajjanhar, how do you look at India's perspective and response right now? More wait and watch, negotiate, talk, compared to Canada, China, even Mexico, literally threatening in a lot of ways. We'll do the counter. Look how we respond to this. Do you think India should have gone the same way?
Okay, let me put it this way. I have negotiated for many, many years in the WTO in Geneva on the, GATT also, Euro round negotiations, Doha round, etc. I think the manner in which, and also, the manner in which India responded in Trump 1.0, when we had this 10% tariffs on aluminum and steel, and also we were, GSP was taken away from us. So the manner which I think we will respond is, two or three parallel tracks. Number one, what has been mentioned by the Ministry of Commerce, that we are going to look at it, we are going to examine it, we are going to see, and then try to highlight some of the positives that we might think that might appear, so that, you blunt the impact of that. The second is we will say we are going to sort of, take it to the WTO, although at the moment WTO is a toothless sort of an instrument, because, the appellate body is not working, courtesy President Donald Trump in 2019, when he sort of, did not agree to designate anyone to go to the appellate body. So it is not really working. Third is we announced that we are going to retaliate, because, domestic sentiment is also important in that context. And of course, we will see that as far as the opposition is concerned, they are going to go for the jugular. As far as BJP is concerned, the ruling NDA is concerned, saying that, you have been, touting your close relations with the President Trump. That has not helped us in any way. So, keep a list of, announce a list of items that we are going to retaliate. We are not going to take it lying down, at some level. And you remember that is also what was done in Trump 1.0.
Yes.
Although we ultimately did not use
But I have
that,
to say, Ambassador Sajjanar, and I guess Daniel Block will also agree to it, I don't think the world has seen a president from the United States of America like this one in a long time. Even 1.0 version was very different from what we see Donald Trump as in 2.0 administration. So it remains to be seen how the world progresses. Remember, the US is still called the superpower. It defines geopolitics often. And he wants to end the wars. He wants to put tariffs, a full-on agenda plan. How will the world shape up with these decisions?